Oh, whoops. I thought the MacBook Airs were known for being portable, so why is the package so big? Oh, is this the MagSafe charger? And it seems to still be in good condition, which is kind of rare when you pick up an old MacBook off eBay. Okay, I'm just guessing this is the laptop itself. Anyone else find it kind of funny that the laptop here is prepared for nuclear war and the guy just threw the charger in without any protection? I've cut through like 5 layers of bubble wrap at this point. When is enough enough? Oh, there's more. Really, there's more? Here it is. I am not even kidding you. This thing was wrapped in 6 layers of bubble wrap, all for it to look... Actually, yeah, it might have been worth it. This looks pretty good. Even with the good condition, we should probably wipe this down first because, I mean, you know what people look up on these things, come on. Oh, by the way, a quick tip, if you ever get your hands on an old Mac and gotta clean it, do not use any chemicals on the screen. You're gonna wipe the anti-reflective coating straight off. And after letting it charge for a few hours, let's turn it on and see what specs we're working with. Hold up, Z? Is this Zorin OS? And yeah, this is definitely Zorin OS, so I guess this Mac just came pre-installed with Linux, which honestly isn't a bad choice if you want to make these things way usable today. But if you're going to go out of your way to buy a MacBook, you're going to want to run macOS on it, okay? I mean, at least that's my opinion. Luckily though, it's pretty easy to reinstall macOS on these things. All you gotta do is hit Option, Command, and R and turn the laptop on. Oh, okay, seems like the airport card is working inside this laptop. So when I was putting in my Wi-Fi password on the 2011 Air, I'm noticing the travel and the shift button, it's like a lot longer than the newer M1 Airs. And that's not really a bad thing either, because in the M1 Air over here, I mean, the keys are nice, don't get me wrong, but it's a bit too short for my liking. Over here, it just got some give, and I kind of go a bit hard on my keys, so I appreciate the difference. Now we just gotta wait a sec to get into internet recovery, and then it'll show us what OS this thing can run maximum. Or I mean, at least what Apple considers maximum. I'm gonna do OpenCore on this thing in a bit, just sit tight. And apparently, the highest supported macOS on this thing is High Sierra. Not bad, but could be better. The recovery server could not be contacted? What do you mean? The servers are still up for this? Alright, I guess we'll just try it again. And unfortunately, the same error appears again. So I did some research online, and apparently it's like the update URL that we gotta copy and then change with the new one, so get ready for an involved process. Oh, don't worry though, Macs are known to just work, right? Alright, so the first step is we just gotta copy this entire log where the installer actually failed. And now we copy the URL inside that error up to the G. And then using this command right here, we're going to update the NVRAM by telling it to look at this catalog URL specifically. And I'm hoping that's it and we can reinstall macOS. Let's go, that was the fix. Select the disk where you want to install macOS and nothing's here? Okay, that's a problem. I guess we got to head into disk utility now. Apple SSD 256. Oh yeah, we got 256 gigs on this thing. That's actually kind of a lot for a 2011 Air. You know what I think happened actually? The previous owner probably did a manual upgrade of the SSD on this thing because the older MacBook Airs, wild concept here, but they were actually user replaceable. Okay, and with this formatted now, can we finally install High Sierra? Hooray! And while the OS installs on this thing, I just want to take a moment to appreciate the I/O we've got on here. Actual USB-A ports. And comparing the thickness of the 2011 Air to the M1 Air, it's like, what, 0.5 millimeters of a difference? Come on, I just need more I/O. I can't live on only USB-C. And I mean, I guess I get the point of going thinner and only using USB-C, but really, it would just be such a nice quality of life improvement if you made it just the tiniest bit thicker and added this port back. Also, damn, yeah, I really gotta clean that MagSafe port. And after a 20-minute installation, we're ready to use macOS, but hold up, what's up with the backlight? Is it really dirty, or do I just have a defective keyboard, or is it aging? I don't know, it's not important. Sign in with your Apple ID. Does this actually work? Because when we tried to install High Sierra, I had to do some sort of weird fix to get this working. And while I was able to successfully log in, I just can't bypass the terms and conditions page, so I guess we just have to log out. Hopefully this will work once we're done with setup. If you think this loading time is bad, try using macOS on a hard drive. And finally, here we are with the desktop. So first things first, let's check out what specs we're running on this thing. Ooh, okay, yeah, that's it's not the best. We got a 1.6 GHz Core i5 and 4 gigs of DDR3 RAM. But just saying Core i5 doesn't really tell us the entire story of this thing, so let's fire up Terminal and see what it's really got. Core i5 2nd generation. I mean, it fits in with the time period this thing came out in, but just reading that spec out loud makes me think it's not going to be fun to use this thing today. Okay, so nerd stuff aside, let's see if we can log into iCloud and send an iMessage. I'm really admiring how much better the system settings page is compared to modern macOS. We were blocked from it in setup, but logging into iCloud here works just fine. Now let's send some iMessages. I mean, it's true. Let's see if it went through on my modern iPhone. Yep, there it is. It's pretty cool to see all the Apple ecosystem stuff still working on an OS from 2018, but if you're looking for a computer just to send iMessages, I'm begging you, just please download OpenBubbles. Past the iCloud functionality though, how good is this as, you know, an actual computer? Let's fire up youtube.com. Please update your browser. Okay, I guess I'll download Chrome. This device won't receive updates because Google Chrome no longer supports your operating system. That's just a great sign. Maybe I'm just spoiled with Apple Silicon today, but this is slower than I expected. Let's see how long this takes to launch. Oh, it's actually not bad. It booted up in like 3 seconds. Gotta be honest, it's kind of hard to wait for this. Where's the Subway Surfers on the side of the screen? And the website load time isn't bad either at around 7 seconds. So the resolution on this MacBook Air's display is only 720p, but if this runs well, I guess we can torture it with higher resolutions. So here's 720p 60, and what if I skip forward and skip behind? Can it keep up, or? Okay, yeah, not bad. And the playback isn't dropping a lot of frames either, so you know what that means. We gotta push this thing up to 4K. You wouldn't be able to see it on the display itself, but what if you got a mini DisplayPort adapter and want to hook this up to a TV? I mean, who am I kidding? Who has a mini DisplayPort adapter? And 4K is just running absolutely terrible on this device. I mean, what did I expect? Take a look at the stats in the corner. We're dropping like half of our frames here. 4K is way too much for this machine, but what about 1080p? And obviously 1080p is way more stable than 4K, and honestly, the performance here, I can't really tell a difference between this and 720p. Can we multitask with the video playing in the background? We have two 720p 60 YouTube videos playing in the background and a bunch of Mac apps open and a bunch of tabs inside Chrome, and this thing really isn't slowing down. I'm impressed. And when it comes to thermals, the fans are on, but honestly, this thing isn't really getting warm. Oh, don't worry though, it'll become a space heater once we install Sequoia on it, but that's a bit later. Next up, we're really gonna push the machine with the last Final Cut Pro version that'll work on High Sierra. Can't be installed on this disk, needs macOS 10.14. Wait, aren't I on that, or? Oh, it's 10.13. Are you kidding me? That took me 20 minutes to download. After sourcing the correct trial, let's see if we can import 4K footage and edit it without this thing overheating. Oh, uh-oh, what's going on in the corner over there? And let's take a look at our 65 seconds of 4K footage. Alright, yeah, it's not looking good. The only thing I'm doing here is scrubbing across the timeline, and the beach ball of death shows up, the fans are kicking on, the laptop's getting hot, and the preview isn't even playing at 1 frame a second, so you know what, maybe 4K is too intense for this thing. Let's try some 1080p footage. And now the app just crashed. Alright, we're gonna have to force quit this. So while editing 4K was an absolute challenge for this machine, doing 1080p 60, honestly, not that bad. I mean, you're still gonna drop frames, but hey, at least it's usable. So I think that's about it for using High Sierra on this machine. Honestly, I'm pretty impressed. Not only could we have 2 YouTube videos playing in the background and just like multitask with a bunch of other stuff, we could do 1080p 60 video editing on this thing. Now the main reason this computer is still somewhat snappy today is because Apple limited it to software from 2018, so what if we just push it and updated it to software from 2025? Experience macOS just like before. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, let's build and install OpenCore. Wait a sec, installed a disk? I didn't even make the installer on the USB yet. Oh, you know what? It's the EFI, UEFI boot thing. I've done this before. You're gonna have to reboot and hold the option key and then select OpenCore boot EFI option. Yeah, see, it just like hijacks the process. And after setting that up, now we can create the macOS installer. I wonder if OpenCore got Tahoe working yet. That's probably gonna make this thing explode. And I'm not seeing Tahoe in here. Is it in the beta versions, or? Okay, yeah, no, we'll just go with Sequoia. Oh, that's just fantastic. My connection is 5 megabits a second and I don't have a USB Ethernet adapter. Alright, I'm gonna go play Gran Turismo 7. See you in an hour. What? $70 piece of shit. Thanks, Sony. Anyways, create macOS installer. Can you imagine if I just hit no and wasted the hour? Creating macOS installers can take 30 plus minutes on slower USB drives. I hope this thing is USB 3. And after 10 minutes of waiting, the disk you inserted was not readable by the computer, and we also got a failed to create macOS installer. Alright, you know what, let's just format the USB disk. And unfortunately, for the 3rd time, the thing just like removes itself from the system when it's creating the installer, so it just crashes. So you know what, let's use this. This is an extremely janky way to create bootable material, but I've actually used this for that in my past, so it should work. Alright, I come back to this like 20 minutes later, new issue. Something has to be wrong with the USB ports on this laptop, because why else would it fail like halfway through the process and like disconnect it? Now the last time I took a look at a Mac was the 2011 Mac Mini, and I actually did this exact same process on this drive, and I hope I didn't wipe it, but I guess we could try to boot off of it and see. Okay, there we go. I really wasn't looking forward to spending another hour on that. Alright, so let's install macOS Sequoia, or, you know, at least attempt to. And I think going through the installer like this is actually just going to in-place upgrade like High Sierra all the way to Sequoia. So I gotta sit and stare at this for an hour while you just gotta wait 3 seconds for the next clip to play. How is that fair? And after letting it install, I come back to this screen. An error occurred preparing the software update. Can we just reboot and boot it to Sequoia, or is it going to be like another 5 years of issues? Alright. Okay, I guess we'll just head right back into the macOS installer and see what's up. About 29 minutes remaining. It did this off camera and I switched it over to here again, so this is just broken. Alright, so let's just scratch everything, reinstall macOS Sequoia. Oh, you know what? Did I just delete the OpenCore configuration that, like, let us boot into, like, the black screen? I guess there's only one way to find out. And after waiting another hour, we get kicked to the screen again. So, at this point, what do? I think, okay, we reinstall Sequoia again, and then when it starts to, like, go from this stage to the next stage where it shows the black bar, we cut the power, and then we just boot into the drive directly, right? That'll work. Let me guess, it's gonna show me the bar that says 28 minutes remaining, right? Please don't do it. Please don't. Oh my god. Alright, reinstall. I'm not getting frustrated, you're getting frustrated. Okay, it's getting to the point where I just about tried everything, so I'm rolling out the installation media this time, and I reflashed it on my other Mac, and now it wants to work, so will this work if we try to install it? Apparently it was the installation media after all. The USB fixed this right up, and now we can finally use macOS Sequoia on this thing. Do the Wi-Fi drivers actually work out of the box? Oh, okay, they do. It doesn't mean that this is going to be seamless, though. We still got to install root patches from the OpenCore app once we log in. And as soon as I say that, we get this. OpenCore Legacy Patcher has found that a macOS update is being downloaded, and it's Tahoe 26.2. Yeah, no, we're not installing that. Okay, there we go. That actually popped up faster than I expected, but how fast can we launch a web browser on this thing? 16 seconds compared to 3 on High Sierra. Not looking good, but let's install the patches so we can judge this fairly. And it seems like everything installed correctly. The only thing to do now is wait 3 years for this to reboot. Anyways, the first thing I'm going to do to gauge performance on this device is download Chrome and see how well it can handle YouTube. I mean, High Sierra did fine, but Sonoma, it's like, what, 8 years newer? Even Safari took way longer, so I'm guessing Chrome is going to take like, what, 30 seconds to launch? Oh, okay, that's actually not bad. 3 seconds on High Sierra versus 8 seconds on Sequoia. Playing a YouTube video at 720p here is running a bit worse, but it's not that noticeable. Compared to High Sierra, we only dropped 100 frames, and now we're like in the 400s. But what's way more noticeable than the amount of frames we're dropping is just the fan noise this thing is giving off. It's kind of obvious the CPU wasn't made for this OS. Can this still handle 1080p though? And it handles 1080p, I would just say okay. So if you had to, you could make this work for modern tasks on Sequoia, but High Sierra was actually able to handle playing 2 YouTube videos in the background and a bunch of modern Mac apps open, so can we multitask on this? And to my surprise, you actually can multitask on this thing. It's obviously not smooth, but it is still working, like none of the apps are closing, so I'm impressed. And now let's push Sequoia to the limit and see if we can get similar performance out of the same Final Cut Pro version. I don't know if it's because we're using a more modern browser, but it seems like that download was way faster compared to High Sierra. In order to use Final Cut Pro, you gotta update to the latest version. Oh no, so we gotta run like Final Cut Pro 11 on this thing. And while we're waiting for that to download, I'm noticing I can actually airdrop my clips to the MacBook Air now. I am kind of confused why it didn't work earlier because High Sierra and iOS 12 are both from 2018, but I guess updating just fixed the issue. And if I was going to go out of my way to daily drive this machine, this would be the deal breaker right here. Apparently the drivers on the Intel, they just don't work with this modern version of Final Cut Pro. What a shame. You can hear the audio from the video, but the preview just won't show up no matter what I do, so that's the end of this. Now the last thing I want to test out on this Mac is playing a light game like Roblox, and all we're going to push this thing on is natural disaster survival. I at least want it to get 30 frames a second. Come on, can you do that? And inside full screen at the lowest quality, we're hitting around 30s, low 40s. It's not very consistent, but hey, at least it's playable. If you wanted to squeeze more performance out of Roblox on lower end devices, there is a client for it on Linux called Sober. So that's the MacBook Air 2011 and 2026. Now, is this usable today? If you have patience, you know? Once you let the system sit for like a minute or two after starting it up, Sequoia actually isn't bad to use, but you're just going to be dealing with the fan on the entire time. And not to mention driver conflicts that might just destroy your entire workflow. Like, if I get a Mac, I need Final Cut Pro to work. In my opinion, though, I think the best way to get some value out of these laptops is definitely to install Linux on them. That combined with a super portable 11-inch form factor really just makes this the perfect travel laptop. But if you're going for the small MacBooks anyways, you're better off just going with the 2015 11-inch Airs, as those are actually the most powerful ones released in this form factor. Anyways, thanks for watching, and let me know down in the comments, what other tech videos do you want to see from me? And I do actually plan to, like, refurbish this thing. I'm gonna, like, take it apart, take out the CPU cooler, repaste it, and install Linux on it, and just see how usable that is, because, I don't know, it just seems pretty neat. Alright, see ya.